Thanks for tuning in to the Soapbox, where it's our quest to help marketing suck less. With your hosts, Justin Stutz, a minivan driving father of four, who knows the lyrics of far too many 90s rap songs and has dedicated his life to finding Sasquatch. Along with Justin Tucker, a self-proclaimed contrarian and pizza enthusiast who fully consumes too much Red Bull and understands his puppy is by far his most redeeming quality. Here, they'll be breaking down real-life marketing and advertising examples with crazy awesome, impressive, and often opinionated guests. Diving into the head-scratching, the forehead-slapping, the belly-laughing, and the awe-inspiring of it all. Now, here's your hosts, Justin and Justin.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Soapbox, where it's our quest to help your marketing suck just a little bit less. And today we have a guest that's very influential in the way that I think about marketing, someone that has challenged me, has got me to see things from a different perspective. Marc Davison from 1000 Watt Consulting, a company that's just absolutely on the forefront of how marketing should be evolving. And, I want to kind of tee up in this show. What we've really done in the past is we've reviewed ads that we liked or didn't like, or we've, gone on rants about things that we think people are doing wrong. But we saw something that Marc wrote that we just thought he was doing it right and everyone needed to hear it. So Justin, why don't you tee that up a little bit, and then we'll get to Marc and his thoughts.
Yeah, no, I love the article, Marc. It was, I think, so timely, where you have, all this, what seems like turmoil going on when it comes to, commission depression and iBuyers and all this stuff that's going on. And in the middle of all that chaos, Marc, you wrote this great blog post called Dear Agent. And it was all about the value proposition that real estate agents still have and will continue to have for this foreseeable future. And it was just this great reminder to Justin and I of, the agent will always have value in this super emotional, crazy, difficult world of real estate. And so I think that's a message that we want our audience to hear. So Marc, kind of break down a little bit about what you were thinking when you wrote that article and some of your takeaways from that.
Thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I really appreciate it. So what was I thinking? I think I just completed a real estate transaction here in Portland. It was my third transaction. So there were two in a row, almost days apart from each other. I sold two properties, and I used the same agent and his team that I used to purchase a property a year ago. And like you guys, I'm sort of a spectator in the sport of real estate. I work in it, but I'm also a spectator of it. I didn't come from the real estate industry. I came from outside the industry. My background is brand marketing, PR, out in the entertainment space. So I think I always sort of have an ear for what's being written, what's being said, what's being promoted through the industry. And it's tuned enough to where when I hear things that are out of tune, I make note of it. Right. So there's been this rhetoric in the industry for a couple of years now, or many years now, that's been out of tune to what my beliefs are, not only as a brand person, but as a business person. Which I guess came to head at the close of these two back-to-back transactions when I realized that the story being told to real estate agents today through real estate media it's a bad story. It's a wrong story. It hijacks their point of view. It hijacks their attention span. It makes them freak out about things that they shouldn't freak out about. But then ultimately, it causes them to then take action to combat a false reality. Right. And then that, as a result, then your worst fears come true. And I don't want to see a world where my agent is no longer able to do business or thinks that he has no or she has no value. So I guess, yeah, I finished that deal. I went home that night and wrote it. And didn't give it much thought really until it got published. And it's been received well by the industry.
Yeah, it kind of blew up when it first hit the email inboxes and social media platforms a little bit.
Well, that's where it spoke to me. Is we had just gotten back from a pretty major real estate conference, and we're kind of rolling our eyes a little bit in the same regard of every conversation is about iBuyers and threats. And obviously we want to have our eyes open in the industry, but then there'll be like, but iBuyers are 0.2% of the market. And we were just sitting there going, man, real estate agents still have a massive value proposition. They're still needed, but they're being told they're irrelevant. And that doesn't mean I don't think that people should look to evolve and grow and find new ways to do things. It absolutely, spoke to me of like, agents needed to hear that. It was like perfect timing for agents to hear that message.
But there's another thing that agents need to hear that goes in tandem with that, because there's a part of me that feels like I shouldn't have had to have written that to create an awareness around that. Agents should know that they matter. They should know that iBuyer is not a threat. They should know that a lot of things are not a threat, but yet that they don't. So like I don't know all the reasons why. But I do think, look, it's inherent in any profession. When your profession requires 110% of your time focused on one thing, and you don't have a lot of bandwidth left over to educate yourself on things that you're not either aware of or an expertise in. And so this has historically always been the case for real estate marketing and branding. It's not a skill set that most agents have. And so I look at marketing both as, incoming research, like actually researching data and analytics and information, demographics, all that stuff. And then producing the output is a reflection of what you've learned as opposed to a reflection of what you're told you're supposed to do by some thought leader at a conference. And then there's branding, which is a completely separate art and science on top of that, which requires you to study the competitor, study yourself, learn about yourself in a way that you can pull out ingredients and then use it to build connectivity. Some agents naturally know how to do it, most don't. In the same way that most don't know how to perform surgery on yourself. Like, that's another thing about real estate is that marketing and branding has been made so dumbed down by so many people who take the stage and talk about it. I know you guys live this every day as marketing experts. Like, it's not easy to do the jobs that we do, but it's been told to agents that it's so easy. You can do it all yourself. As a result, and I'm getting to this important point, that I believe many agents market themselves right out of relationships. They market themselves out of opportunities. They're actually marketing themselves so poorly, they're branding so poorly that they're creating opportunities for competitors who are way smarter and way slicker to come in and take their spot. So, in the case of iBuyers, guys, like, you're actually saying that a machine can calculate the price of my home and sell my home and manage all of my emotional realities better than a person can. Like, no person should ever believe that, but I think way too many are starting to believe that and they're reacting to that belief.
So that actually brings up a really good segue, and Tucker, I want you to weigh in on this, but it comes from your article and one of the tips that you give, and you say, when they do them, you do you. And you bring up this idea of like the prevalence of plagiarism in this industry where everybody's kind of saying the same thing and doing the same thing. And then you've got these companies with tons of money coming in, right? And having this different message of iBuyers and we can do it easier and all this stuff. And it creates this problem, what you just described, where they're marketing themselves right out of the industry because iBuyers have so much money and way better marketing that people are excited about it, right? They think that's an opportunity. So Tucker and Marc, would you weigh in a little bit about the plagiarism problem we have and maybe some path forward for our listeners on what the heck they can do to compete with that?
Yeah. Boy, you're right. It just as you're reiterating it back to me, all of the areas in which I would either call plagiarism or just simply copycatting, or just doing what you're told to do. But, I'll give you an example. I may have used it in the article. I don't remember. But, every brokerage, every agent pretty much has a website. And when you go to it, the first thing that you're invited to do is search for property. So that would be cool if you were the only one in the market offering that.
Right.
It would be cool if you were not only the only one offering that, but no one else offered that anywhere. In other words, you were the solution to a problem of I need to find properties and this person has a website where I can search them. But by offering this thing that everybody offers, you become like everybody else. And therefore, everything that you pride yourself on in terms of being unique and in possession of certain skills and knowledge and talent is completely lost by this sort of singular utility that everybody is sharing. You also end up looking kind of silly because, most people are searching for properties on the big portals. It's the same inventory. What have you got that they don't have? So it almost presents you as being completely ignorant of what I, as your client, really need from you and why I've gone to your website. You can go there and search for property. I've gone there for something else. So what is that something else? Well, my fundamental belief is that the one thing that we all have that's different from everybody else is our unique perspective on things.
Yep.
And it's hard to find a real estate agent, or even in the title world, the title agents, if they have presence, they're all basically buying templated websites where the vendors have decided that this is what you're going to offer the consumer. You accept that. And I think you'd be better off to have nothing than to have the same thing that everybody else does. So I don't think it's plagiarism in the purposeful, although there are some examples of that. Like, for instance, here in Portland, there's a brokerage who has a marketing campaign. Living Room Realty has a great marketing campaign. We know Multnomah. We know Belmont. We know Hawthorne. We know Division. We know the Pearl District. And then some agent has his own marketing campaign. I know. So like there's the We Know campaign, and then there's the I Know campaign. It's just a copycat. You don't do yourself any, and it gets to my big question: what do you actually know? And if you could share what you know somewhere. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Well, could I ask you a question? Because I love where you're going with that. I usually have a lot to say, and right now I'm just nodding a lot because I agree with a lot that you're saying. So
congratulations, Marc. You rendered him speechless.
Do you think that comes from a fact that, creativity is difficult and people are struggling with like what to do, so they just mimic what's in front of them? I mean, how do you unlock that piece of your brain that instead of copying something you've seen is a lot easier than sitting back and trying to be self-aware and figure something new out? I mean, how do people explore that process of being creative and finding something unique to them? Because I agree that the uniqueness they have is their biggest value proposition. It's the thing that's often most overlooked.
You're going to laugh at the answer, but it's the most obvious answer of all answers. If you need to have some medical procedure done, do you do it yourself?
I go to WebMD and then I just start cutting.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like somebody sues you, you're going to represent yourself in court?
Yeah.
You're going to just become a lawyer overnight? I don't know where this comes from, although, yes, I do know where it comes from, and I have issue with it. All these yahoos that go on stage and tell agents that you can be a marketer, that you can build your own brand, that you could do all your social media, just social media of this, and tweet your life and Instagram your life, and that like you can do it all yourself. I guess that's probably a more, although I don't know why it would be, but I'm assuming that that's a far more pleasant sound to hear than you should not be doing any of these things yourself. You should focus on what you do better than anybody else and offload the stuff you can't do to experts, because it's what you're demanding as a realtor from your clients. Don't sell a home yourself, or don't list yourself. Use me. How many agents actually hire a marketing firm or a brand agency or a this or a that to tackle these, to help an agent figure out like what their unique thing is, so that they don't have to go out into the world with the same old that everybody else has? I don't know why agents don't do that. I know it costs money. But is it an expense? Is it an investment? Like,
yeah, and to echo that, I mean, even if it's a talent you possess, it's still good sometimes to get outside people that can give you a fresh look at yourself. I mean, I don't want to claim that we're, the best marketing title company on the planet. I think we do okay. And I think, I'm passionate about it. And you can look over my shoulder and see behind me, a framed record in our tagline that you guys helped us create. And that comes from
is that what that?
That is.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, cool.
And that was us saying, hey, even if we think we're good at this, it's still, let's go find some other really smart people, help them maybe see something we don't see, like something that we don't see in ourselves, and give us, a fresh perspective on it. And to date, that is still our tagline. It's really well received in the market. It's really well received internally, and probably not something that we would have come to on our own, right? So I think that your point is really, really valid.
On that note, we're now almost 13 years old as a company. When we launched with the name 1000-Watt Consulting, and a year later, we removed consulting from the name. We're now 1000-Watt. For 12 years, I have failed in getting the industry to know that. I have failed in parlaying our value proposition and our story to the marketplace to only prove this point and your point, which is if you try to do this yourself, you're never, like, we have no choice. I'm not going to go hire a brand agency to do our brand. I'm going to stick to it until I get it right, because I've spent an entire career and I have a whole agency full of geniuses who are going to help us do this. And we actually are on for the last 6 months. And right after this, I'm going into a meeting. We're going through a rebrand right now that should fix our messaging story to the industry. But the truth is, you can't do it yourself. You will never come at it with, it's not just an outside perspective, but here's the secret to it. No matter what you are, whether you're a title company or a real estate agent, you're a brand agency like me, you fall in love with every component of what you are. They're like kids, right? Everything we offer, every service we offer, everything we stand for, they're just as important as everything else to me, but not necessarily to the marketplace. And the minute you get out of your way and begin to study the marketplace and figure out what do they need from you, what do they believe you are, what do they want, you then look at what you have and go, you know what, I'm just going to pick these 1 or 2 things that'll be sort of the lead. That's, the bait on the hook. That's the slogan. That's the messaging. It's what we did for you guys. Like, we did lots and lots of interviews before we came to a decision that, like, your primary place in the world is X, and brand around that.
Well, and it's so true. I mean, I even think on another level, it's like, how do you decouple your emotion away from things that you use as part of your identity, even if they're wrong? We recently, about a year ago, we were doing these refresh events, and it was kind of our brainchild, and we loved them, and we got good feedback on them, and we actually had this really, sincere moment with ourselves where, like, these have run their course, and we need to put them out back and let them go away and figure out what's next. And that can be really hard when you have an emotional attachment to something, to be able to let it go. But then our next iteration was a different event, a different style of event called Execute. And it's been one of the most successful drivers of business for us this year, because we were able to remove our emotion from who we thought we were, listen to the market, what the market wanted, and then build something that they cared about, instead of thinking we were smarter than the market and we had outthought what needed to happen. So I love that. I love that point, is sometimes you have to let go of what you think you know.
And you can only do that, I think, once you're told to do that. I mean, that's why people go to therapy. They probably know what their problem is, and they probably know what they need to do, but they need that professional to validate those feelings. I mean, sometimes you don't know, and that supports my case too, that you need a professional to sort of validate what you should be doing. Like the agents, it's funny, the agents that I work with, I didn't even know who their broker was through the entire first, it didn't matter to me. I never went to their website. All I needed was their email and their cell number. I didn't need their website for anything. Now, subsequently, once we concluded the deal, I'm on a mailing list, and I get a video from the team leader like once a month, and I watch it religiously. It's really good. It's really good because he's really good. And so he takes what he knows he's great at and leverages it on video. He doesn't talk about other things. He doesn't send me conversational email about movies he's seen or like just nonsense that's not contextual to what my relationship is with him. He's hyper focused on what his strength is. So and I didn't help him. However he got to that place, he's figured out like how to make the best of it and doesn't fill my world as his customer base with stuff that I don't need. That would, in my earlier point, where he then would market his way out of my life. Everything he sends me is really curated, selected, smart, and periodic. And that's a key, guys. It's not often. He's not in my world every week. He's in my world once a month or once every other month.
I mean, this might be a loaded question, and I might be putting you on the spot, but that's something that you liked. I mean, as you look around, and I know you're a student of everything, like if you're looking around outside our industry or in it, what types of things or marketing are you seeing that speaks to you or you think makes sense or is a good example of what people at least should be thinking about? I mean, what types of things are you seeing in any industry that speak to you?
Well, it's not a loaded question, but it's a big question.
Yeah.
Because I'm a student, I am a student of this profession. You never stop learning. So I watch commercials like crazy.
Yeah.
Whereas most people fast forward, I don't watch TV shows. It's weird, guys. I record shows and watch the commercials.
Yeah. Yep.
I fast forward through the shows.
Well, where this show came from is our first couple of episodes is we were taking commercials and just breaking them down. Like, this was funny. This makes sense. This is, so I love that. Like I can't drive by a billboard or watch a commercial without wanting to understand it.
It's nice to know that there's other people like us out there.
Yeah, it's a little geeky, but unless it's Game of Thrones or like a really, really special show, I record a lot of TV and I watch the commercials. And I watch them for a couple of reasons. I study like who's advertising on a particular show. So there's a show, the show has been created, and it figures out like who its audience is and where its audience is, and they figure out time slots and where the show is best placed. And then advertisers buy spots in that, because they're buying access to that demographic. And then they create storytelling and messaging that should appeal to send sort of signals to that type of demographic that they're a brand that they should participate in. So I study that. I study the art form of commercial making. As like one of my skill sets is script writing and storyboarding and producing and directing commercials. So I like that medium. I like that art form. I read a lot of Ad Age. I read every issue of Ad Age. So I'm a walking encyclopedia of every ad agency in the world, every CEO of every ad agency in the world. I know who's producing what ads. I read the stories about how the ad was produced, what the story behind it was. But I'm also like, there's other kinds of advertising. There's those quick little 10-second videos that appear, on Facebook or in your apps. Like, you're playing a game app and then there's some videos. I study those because that's an interesting art form, trying to get your message across in a very short period of time. So the things that reach out to me are the things that are smart, the things that make me tap and want to go to the website, the things that actually compel me. And then I analyze, like, what was it about that ad that actually got me? So there's a great, I think it's Subway. Or it's Jimmy John. Pardon me, because I just saw it last night, and I need to go back and watch it again tonight. But the slogan is, because sandwich. It's so different. It's so odd, but it's a sandwich shop. I think it's Subway. I don't remember the brand, but it's a family. They're dancing around in front of their home. They just got their sandwiches, and they're having a great time because sandwich.
Yeah.
And I actually had to stop, and my wife was watching with me, and she started laughing out loud. It made us laugh. How often does a commercial make you laugh? And so I realized right then and there that somebody just broke a rule and wrote a slogan that doesn't seem to have a finish, but yet it's completely intact because sandwich, like enough said. And it was funny. So I want to now go.
That was so, you said something there so subtle that I want to like point out to everyone is because someone broke a rule.
Yeah.
They broke a rule. Like they did something that was disruptive. We're so inundated with messages and scroll and see, like they broke a rule, and what it made you do is it kind of broke your stream of consciousness for a minute. We're like, wait a minute, is that wait, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of funny. Like I love they broke a rule. That's such a powerful line for
you gotta break rules. It's the secret to all of this is to break the rule, because if you say the same thing over and over and over again, well, what happens?
White noise.
You bore people. White noise. So like, that's the art of what we do, which is to like, so I'd say to a realtor, so what's your worldview? Why did you become an agent? And they'll say, well, because I really want to help people. Mm-hmm. Now, if you just stop there, that's a nice sentiment, but if you want to help people, there's 1,000 professions that you could go into where you can help people. And it's probably not unique. Most agents would probably say that I got into real estate because I want to help people. But if you just create messaging around that, well, whatever you come up with is probably something people have heard before. So then you got to do what like young children have figured out how to do early on. And that's how young kids become smart adults. And it's how smart adults start becoming stupid adults when you stop doing the very thing that got you smart to begin with. Is you need to always ask why. And I believe in this series of 3 whys always get you to what you really need to know. And if you have kids, you know that your kids keep asking you why until you give them the real reason. So when I say to a realtor, but why do you want to help people? Then you'll get another answer. You'll start getting a little bit, because your why is going to be different than your why, right? Slightly. But then I'll have to ask you again, but why is that important? And if you do that enough times, you're going to get down to a nugget of reality that is the unique quality that makes you different from you. And then you got to go out and write that. You just can't write that verbatim. You got to come up with a way to write it. And typically you want to break the rule of writing and come up with something, because what is the job of this stuff? Yeah. Agents and title people and everybody in real estate believe that the purpose for all this messaging and marketing is to inform people of what you do. No, it's not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make them stop in their track and notice you. That's the job, is to get them to stop and go, wait, I just heard because sandwich. I'd never heard that before. That's clever. I want to know more about how the entity that created that.
Well, and to be really clear, even if you do something creative like because sandwich, it doesn't mean that you don't want to help people, and it doesn't mean that you don't operate with integrity. Like those things to me seem kind of like, yeah, those need to be barriers to entry. You need to want to help people and care, but then what that's uniquely you. And those are really good takeaways for me on this call with you right now, Marc. It's this idea, and we've said it a couple of times in a different way, but there's no neutral anymore. People are marketing themselves out of opportunities. They're getting turned off. They're getting put in the junk folder. They're getting hidden on social media because they're not creating a message that really resonates or connects with people. And then to do that, you have to be a little disruptive, break some rules, be uniquely you, be who you are, and find a way to let them
That's important.
through.
Well, and I think if I could add another way to that, guys, is that you got to ask for help, right? I mean, as you can clearly see with guys like Marc, there's a difference between going through somebody who knows what they're doing, like Marc, and trying to do it yourself. I mean, the results are drastically different, as evidenced by the record on the back of your wall, right? Like working with 1,000 Watt or whoever results in killer campaigns, being unique and creative in the space. So, if nothing else, like don't go about this stuff on your own. Like find some help.
Well, and if I could add to that, Stutz, because I agree with you. I mean, the ultimate end all be all would be the ability to find help, and that is, whether that can be someone like 1,000 Watt, or if there are other people out there, or people in your circle. But if you can't go that far, and I would recommend you could, but if you can't, the other thought that I got from Marc is just start being a consumer of information, of marketing, of commercials, and seeing in ads and seeing what speaks to you, or asking the question, why did I like that? Why did I do that? And then try to bridge that to who you are. And sometimes that's as much as sitting down with someone who knows you really well and letting them be a mirror for you so that you can, see yourself in a way that maybe you're not seeing it because of the conversations you're having with them. I mean, end all be all, we'd love to, I'm super thankful in WFG's growth that we had an opportunity to work for a lot of years with 1,000 Watt. And, but that's not, I don't know that that's everyone's reality, but it does just spark me on this thought process of like, be mindful of it and actually put some time and think about it. There's no easy way to it. It doesn't just happen, put 10 minutes of pen to paper.
Yeah. If nothing else, we get a group of people all just watching commercials from now on. I think this is a win.
Well, the point of all of it is if you could be a little bit more learned in an activity that you're going to offload, because I would never recommend anybody take the time to read all the books and study all the things and try to do all whatever, and then go and do it themselves. The purpose to do all that, and I agree with you guys, agents who are in the field, who have to market, who have to brand, who have to do these things, should be more educated on what these elements are, so that when they go hire an agency, they'd be in a better position to know if the work that they're getting is good or not.
Yep.
Because we're not available to everybody. We can't take on everybody. Not everybody is even right for us. So how do you even find an agency that would execute work for you that's right for you? How will you know? Like a big problem that we have encountered in working with agents over the years, and we've done some, is that they're so uneducated in this process that when we give them really good work, they can't recognize it. And then they want us to tweak it and do this and do that, and they show it to other people and come back with so many opinions that by the end of that, they end up getting the same garbage that they had before. And that's no way to use a professional agency.
And I think there's two things that happen there. One is familiarity. The reason I think people keep tweaking things back to a place that they're familiar is because it feels safe. And so it's that openness to
Very
what
true. Yeah.
Different. And then the second part is, I'm not saying you go to consumers for feedback on your message, but your message, the consumers will tell you if it clicks or not, if it resonates. And what I see is so many people ignore data. It's like no one's engaging, no one's opening your emails, no one's commenting on your social, no one's doing any of this stuff, but you're committed.
And you keep doing the same thing.
It's like, wait a minute. Maybe we should take a little bit look and go, okay, what I'm saying isn't resonating, obviously. So I think there's two things to keep in mind there. One is it might feel uncomfortable. It might not feel familiar. You might be stretching yourself to a place you're not comfortable with. And then two, your consumers, once you do it, once you send it out, but they will tell you whether or not it resonates. Ours was because of you. Not only did we start getting great internal feedback and external feedback, then we went even as far as worked with you guys to do a blind survey out to real estate agents, and people could pair because of you with our title company at a higher level than they could compare other people's taglines with their title companies that have had the same tagline for 30 years. And we had only had ours for 5 months. So the thought was, not only did it resonate, but title companies had been me, look at us. We're so big. We have so many reserves. We're awesome. And your dynamic with us was to flip it on its head and remember, like, we exist for our clients and to be thinking about, being externally focused. And in 5 or 6 months of intentional marketing with the right tagline, we became more recognizable than companies that had had the same tagline for 30 years. And we would not have got there on our own. So thank you, by the way.
Well, you're welcome. Well, this is one of the rules that we broke, and it's a rule that we consistently break, and will not break it, despite a request from a client to break it. We will not, which is, we will not write slogans that tell the world something about you. Our approach to slogan writing is we want to tell the world something about the world. Now, in your case, what we tell the world is we're here because of you. Like, you matter. I'm just thinking through like all the many slogans that we write. We're simply trying to push out a belief system, a belief for the world. And there's other brands that have, like great brands, who have done this. Apple's Think Different did not in any way, shape, or form describe their product line.
Yep.
It shared a worldview that it bestowed upon an audience and empowered them to become something that they aspired to become. When you can write slogans that the audience can feel comfortable with, in the sense validates their own existence, makes them feel better about themselves, or makes them realize the person that they wanted to be through your brand, that's where like great slogan writing. But let's really get very clear about you guys, for an example. What made Because of You great was not the words we came up with. It made it great because you executed. Because WFG has a team of people, which you lead, Justin, that went out into the world and executed and made it mean something. To just create a slogan, I mean, this is something agents do all the time. They'll write a website and they'll copy. There's so many of these out there. Live and Love Local. I wrote the first Live and Love Local 10 years ago for a company in Naperville, and since then 1,000 people have copied it. Great. Thank you all for doing that. But it can't just when we launched Live and Love Local for that Naperville company, we gave them a presentation of 30 ideas that they need to go and do to activate that slogan and make it real. Yep. One of them was they needed to go and film every single community, every single subdivision, in which they ended up making, I don't know, close to 100 videos that they put on YouTube. I then said you need to go even deeper and go and interview every storekeeper and give them a 60-second video on their shop and post that on YouTube. On and on. There were so many different ideas, because if you love something, you need to show the love. And so what does Live and Love Local mean?
And you can't activate that if you also don't believe in it too. Right. I mean, there's the deliverables.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, you just can't take it because you believe, oh, I like that, so I'll slap it on my site, but I don't contribute locally, I don't sell locally, I don't do anything locally. That's where, like, see, everything is tied to everything. There's no one thing that's like a magic bullet to anything. So, one of the things I know I wrote in that piece was just be great at one thing and then hire other great entities to support your greatness. Yeah. So if you're great at negotiation, you're great at listing, then bring in, if you want to represent buyers, bring in a great team up with a great buyer's agent. If you want to do marketing, bring in a marketer, like hire one, a great one, or outsource it to a good agency. It's not.
The other thing that really spoke to me, if we're kind of tying a bow on this and going back to where we started, the other thing that spoke to me about, being at that conference and hearing about iBuyers and all of this, everyone kind of kept reframing on the customer's choice and customer experience. And what I hear from the branding conversation to the blog post you wrote to kind of everything in between is like, don't try to be everything to everyone. There are going to be customers that are going to prefer an iBuying situation. Whatever percentage that ends up being, it fits their scenario. There are going to be a lot of customers who prefer that personal touch and that the managing of the emotion. And it seems like in almost every other industry, people are okay with the fact that consumers have choices, right? We have choices for insurance. We have choices. Do you want just complete, like Stutz just has his online insurance and I still have my insurance agent because I want to be able to. So, like, consumers are going to demand choices. That's why you need to know who you are, be uniquely you, and realize you're not a fit for everyone. And that's okay. You don't have to be a fit for everyone.
Yep, choice is always.
You know what I love most about my agent was when I listed my home in Tigard, the first thing that they did was they said, we're going to go to Open Door and we're going to get a quote, because if you can get a good price at Open Door, as your representative, I would advise you to take that.
Wow.
Amazing.
But it shouldn't be amazing.
Yeah.
It is, though.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Well, I mean, but this is like, I guess, yeah. It's so we went to Open Door. Open Door gave us a price. They brought me the price. They brought me their CMA and all of their, and it showed that I can probably get 50 to 60 grand more if I went the traditional route. Yeah, it would take a little longer, but they were incredibly confident. If I took away their commission, which I want to talk about that for a second, you minus their commission, you also have to minus the fees you're going to pay to Open Door. Like, you're going to have to pay them still to buy that house from you. There's a fee. I was going to make out, it was worth it to me to not only make that much more money, but even in a break-even scenario, and this is an interesting thing, guys. I'm just a normal consumer. I'm not any better or more special consumer than anybody else. But I felt that I would rather pay a fee to a local person, a local business, a realtor, even in a break-even scenario, than pay money to an Open Door and have it leave my community. And part of what instilled that in me was the agent who markets around local contribution. And like, he's a person that lives and loves local. So this is, realtors don't realize the power they have as an entity in the space to really shape thinking. They just don't even know that they have the power because they're not told that they do. They go to these conferences and they're told to do silly, shallow, magic bullet things because it bodes well for the speakers who present that information. It bodes well for the conferences that support that because it drives a lot of attention. The stuff my guy does, the stuff Nick does, is harder. It takes more work. But, so does being good and successful.
Well, so I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty good quote to wrap this up on.
I think that's wonderful.
Oh,
Marc,
well, cool.
We could probably have this conversation for 3 more hours, but unfortunately, we got to cut it off. But
I enjoy talking to you guys.
We'll link to the article that we talked about at the beginning in the show notes. You guys can take a look at it. It is absolutely worth the read. Marc, it's been a pleasure, man. I by the way, I love your office space. The wall behind you is really cool. I'm kind of checking that out.
It's a little bit of a historical trek through my life. I was a musician. I'm still a musician. I spent a lot of years in the music business. So there's a lot of that here and dispersed around. But yeah, you guys are always welcome back. You don't have to send us a fee.
If you would remember, Marc, that back early on in my career here, you and I had an opportunity to get an interview with you for a project I was working on. And I still talk about it all the time because it was one of the coolest experiences where I got to sit down one-on-one and record this little podcast. And it was so much fun for me. So
I remember, me too.
Good. Well, and guys, if you aren't signed up for 1,000 Watts newsletter, I would. I mean, they just launched another article yesterday that got my wheels turning about is your your marketing's boring if. I mean, there's really great content in there that makes you think about things different. And Marc, early on in my career when we got connected and started working with you guys, the thing that I always appreciate the most is you make me challenge my assumptions and the way that I think about things, that there could be a different perspective and that I, should open up to some of that stuff. So guys, even if you don't have the pleasure of being able to hire and work with 1,000 Watt, really great content that they put out there, really smart guys.
Yeah, read our stuff.
I mean, you should absolutely be paying attention to them. Awesome.
Thank you. And ditto, back at you. I always enjoy my my time with you guys. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you. See
That's a wrap,
you
guys.
later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Soapbox, where two guys named Justin help marketing suck less. Join us next time for another episode of thought-provoking discussion, marketing dissection, and more uncontained rants on the marketing that real companies are spending real money on. Always remember, why do we market to people in ways that we don't like to be marketed to?
You got to watch the commercial. I'll find the clip. It's really good.
We'll do it.
And it blew my mind open as to like, I've never written anything quite that abrupt. And I want to now. I want the chance to, I'm not going to plagiarize. It's going to inspire.
We can just take a campaign called Because House coming out from you.
No, I can't even use the word because, but like the idea that you could not finish a sentence.
You already did. You used because of you. We already have the word because.
That's it. Damn it. We were first.